guys, and welcome back to Beauty Fortified. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Sue, and today I'm talking about one of my most favorite products, and that is cream blush. Now, if you've ever wanted to wear cream blush, but you're a little bit hesitant and you're not quite sure how to apply it, and you're a little bit scared that you might end up looking like a clown, I've got 3 different application methods for you today. Now, just a little bit about cream blush and mature skin. It's really a very forgiving formula for mature skin, because most cream blushes that I've tried, and obviously there are some exceptions, but I find that they don't emphasize texture, and they really kind of meld into the skin and they become one with your skin. So they don't sit on the skin like powder blushes do. So they're very forgiving in that respect. And also they're great, they're portable. You can just throw them into your handbag, you can apply them with your fingers, and you're good to go. Now, blush is one of those things that can do the most to make you look alive and to brighten your complexion. So I never go a day without it. I have been accused of being a little heavy-handed, which I probably am on a lot of occasions, but it's just something that I absolutely love. I think cream blush next to mascara would be one of my desert island favorites. So I'm going to take you through a couple of examples of cream blush. I mean, there are many on the market, but just a couple that you can look out for. So there are the ones in a stick. This one is from NYX, and stick blush is very easy to apply because you just apply it directly onto your skin and then you blend it out. So another one would be the MAC Glow Play blushes, and these are very reminiscent of the Maybelline Bouncy blushes that came out a few years ago. Really good, love those ones. You do get liquid blush as well, which I'm not going to go into today, but the concept is very similar. And a couple of other examples of cream blushes in a pan would be the Bobbi Brown ones. I really like these ones. These are also really good to apply. Some drugstore ones, there's Maybelline Dream Matte Blush, and these are also like a mousse texture. These are great, also very easy to apply. There are the e.l.f. Putty blushes, which are also really good, can't go wrong with those. So those are just a couple of examples of blushes to look out for. Now, when it comes to applying blush, there are a couple of things that you need to consider. So as we get older, obviously our muscles begin to sag, our facial muscles begin to sag, and we also lose bone. So that does not a good combination make, because it tends to kind of drag everything down. So when you apply your blush, you want to mitigate that. So a couple of things to look out for. So if you take a pencil brush and put it in line with your iris, you want to keep the blush on the outer 2/3 of your cheek. You don't necessarily want to bring it right in to the apple, because it is going to give the illusion of pulling things down slightly. So you just need to keep it on the outer 2/3 of the cheek, and you need to come as high as possible, because that will give you the illusion of lift. So if you're going to apply your blush down here, you might have been able to do that in your 20s and early 30s, but as you get older, it is going to have the illusion of pulling your face down a little bit. So now on to application methods. Now, if you're new to cream blush, you're a little bit skeptical, you're a little bit frightened, then I would suggest that you start off with a very light color. Now, the one example I've got here is a MAC Glow Play one, and this is in So Natural. And it really is a very natural color. If you are light to light medium, I would recommend this. I'm going to try with a slightly darker version of that. This is an old Elizabeth Arden one, which has been discontinued. So I'm going to use this one instead. But it's a very good idea just to start off with a really light color, and you can build it up, and that way you can get to practice a little bit with your application. So the first method I'm going to use is using a sponge. Now, this is one of these old school makeup wedges. I don't know when last you saw one of these, but they are incredibly useful. And I'm going to use this to apply this very nudie color. So I'm just going to dab it into the blush, just to make sure I've got some product on the sponge. I've got about that much product. And then I'm going to just gently dab it onto the outer 2/3 of the cheek, going up and blending it out into the hairline. So the majority of the color is going to be on this part of the cheek. And I'm going to keep it very high. So not to say that it's directly under your eye, but it is actually quite close to my lower lid. It's about 1 inch away from my lower lid. And I'm doing that just to keep it very high, and I'm just patting it on with the sponge. So it gives you a really nice finish. I'm being careful not to go into the inner third of my cheek, and I'm just lightly tapping this on. So a sponge is a really good option, and that is a light color, but it still gives the illusion of lift. So if you compare this cheek to this one, you can see that it is slightly lifted. Now, to lift the cheekbone even more, you can pop a powder or a cream highlight onto your upper cheekbone, which I will do down the line. You'll see how I do that. But already that is giving me quite a lift, and it's just adding some vibrance and some color to my face. So method number 2, I'm going to be applying blush with a brush. And I use quite a dense blush brush. This is from Eco Tools. And I find that this is also a really easy way and a no mess way to apply blush. I just dab the brush into the blush. I'm using MAC Glow Play Grand. And again, I'm just going to pat it on, starting at the outer third of the cheek and just blending it up into the hairline. And I also find that when I smile, it does make my cheeks a little bit taut, which actually helps with the application, because otherwise they are just a little bit bouncy. So just gently patting that in and blending it up into the hairline, making sure that I'm not going too low and that I'm not going into the inner third of the cheek. And then just with this one, I am going to apply a little bit of highlighter, and I'm going to use a powder highlighter just for illustration purposes. I'm using this one from Essence. It's called The Highlighter, and it's a very natural kind of glowy shade on my skin. Taking a little highlighting brush, just patting it into the highlighter, and then just popping it on the top of my cheekbone. So just to give a very light hint of color, and this will also help in just pulling the cheeks upwards, because it will reflect light and it'll just give you the illusion of lift. And then finally, the third method that I use is with my fingers. So for this one, I'm going to be using something a lot brighter. And this is a MAC Glow Play, and it's in the shade Heat Index. And it does look very, very scary. But this actually gives you a beautiful flush of color if you go very light-handed with it. So I'm going to be using my fingers for this one, because your fingers are probably the most, you have most control with your fingers. So I'm just going to dab a tiny bit of that onto my ring finger, and then starting again on the outer third of my cheek, I'm just going to lightly dab it, and it does look very scary, but I'm going to blend it out, and it does give the most gorgeous flush of color. So I'm happy with the color placement. I'm not happy with the color, obviously, because it's way too dark. I'm just going to take a different finger and just blend that in very gently. Again, being careful not to go into the inner third of the cheek. So just keeping it quite high. And you can blend this out to your heart's desire. You can blend it as light as you want to. But it is very highly pigmented, but really does give such a lovely flush of color. So guys, just to recap, if you haven't tried cream blush, I would suggest that you try a really, really light shade and go with that. And remember, the more you practice, the better you'll get at it. So just in terms of application, remember to start on the outer 2/3 of the cheek, blending it up. Keep it as high as possible, about 1 inch under your eye, just to give the illusion of lift. And the 3 methods, your fingers where you have more control, a sponge, or a brush, they're all absolutely fantastic. So let me know if you do use cream blush. Let me know how you apply it. Let me know what the best one is that you use. I'd love to hear from you. Please leave your comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Ciao, ciao.